I just don't get the hype with some of these games that like are clearly geared towards people who've never played video games before, right? Like that's kind of, I can't remember what Jared said exactly, but it's like Among Us is one of those things that like there's nothing really unique.
They're the Stanley water bottles of video games.
Yeah.
They are. It's like it's a water bottle. We've had these for like a long time.
Yeah, and I need to hide my Stanley from the frame, but
no, hey, there's no hate for Stanleys. It's just like don't act like it's groundbreaking. It's a thing that's been around for a long time.
Hello, and welcome to Grasstouchers, the show where the, what's that? 4 of us guys talk about video games and lots of other things that we are super into. I am Jake.
I am Jared.
I'm Greg.
And I'm Clay.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining us on the podcast this evening is Clay, my old pal from the 5th grade. Oh my gosh. Clay and I have played video games for that's right, get those claps in there. Note to self, need to edit in some claps.
I got some claps you can edit in right here, pal.
Clay and I go way back, and we've had a blast and a half playing video games over the years, and he is joining us this week as our first guest on episode 11. Clay, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be here.
I think we should start off with you. If there's anything you want to kind of clue us into, what's your life like? How much video games do you play? What have you been playing lately? What are you all about right now?
Yeah, so like Jake said in the intro, we've been friends for a really long time. And yeah, so I am 32 and married. Just had my first son back in September. So kind of a new father and adjusting to that. I consider myself a Grasstoucher of the highest order.
Yes.
I am not a PC gamer like all of you. And
we'll forgive it. It's okay.
I play on the PlayStation. Before that, I was an Xbox guy for a long time. And then growing up, similar to Jake's trajectory, like a GameCube, Nintendo guy. But yeah, I mostly play PlayStation. Kind of have to limit my time because I have a small baby that I'm taking care of with my wife. So
yeah, dude.
Right.
Side note: when you texted me earlier about what time we'd be all like get on tonight and everything, you're like, "Well, my son goes down at this time," and I was like, "I just love hearing that."
Yeah. It's been an adjustment. But it's
sure,
actually kind of awesome. I mean, so it was hard in the early days. Greg, you're expecting, right? Or your wife is expecting?
I'm also expecting.
Yeah.
Yes, my wife is expecting. Yeah.
So you'll learn this very soon, but you don't have a ton of time for basically anything for yourself. It's kind of you're sleeping when you can, and then when you're awake, you're handling baby. And luckily, we had some maternity parental leave. But eventually, the baby does sleep at night. And in that time, you kind of reclaim like your hobbies, like gaming. The first game I played after all this was Spider-Man, just because you were talking about it before we jumped on the podcast. Like, it's a PlayStation exclusive. It's super fun to just jump in, swing around, no stakes to it, not super difficult, not super sweaty. And so if I just had like an hour to kill.
I have a very strong, I have a core gamer memory of playing Spider-Man 2 on what I believe was the GameCube at your house, Clay.
Yeah.
Like, that was a rad game that had come out, and I remember we were all about it, like passing the controller back and forth. It was sick. Yeah. And this is like sort of like that, but in current gen, right? It's just super, super fun. Do whatever you want.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed that one, and I just honestly really embraced just not doing anything mentally taxing. Like when I have that downtime, just chill out on the couch. I didn't think I'd be playing a ton of video games right after my son was born, but it worked out that way. So then after that, I was looking for something new, and I heard Greg talking about Baldur's Gate, and that's kind of what I've been digging into for the last couple weeks, and I'm loving it.
And that's awesome. I can't wait to get into that. I'm so glad that was something we were able to turn you on to, and that you have enjoyed that one. I'm fairly confident that I got paid today. I'm fairly confident at the end of this podcast I'm going to buy the thing. But well, let's go around the horn. Jared, what have you been playing lately, brother?
Well, I got very into Ark, and I told you guys about that, and I played quite a bit of it.
Back on that train super hard?
I mean, kind of.
The dog returns to its vomit.
It returns to its vomit. I know, and it's already something that I'm like, all right, I'm taking a step back from this game because it's frustrating because you get cleared out a couple times, you get raided, and it just becomes so obvious that you're nothing compared to what some of the people on the server have already accomplished. Like it truly is a game that puts you in your place in like the worst way. It's not in a cool way where it's like, all right, I'm gonna work harder and be better and it's just no, you just suck and you're alone. Nobody's on your team, and you're gay, and nobody likes you, and you're screwed. And
boy, it sounds just like a real pleasurable experience.
It's a great, I know. I'm a bit of a gaming masochist in that way, I suppose, but I've since kind of not shelved it completely. I've got all my dinos on there. I got to keep them fed, I got to keep them healthy. Keep food in their bellies, But aside,
just get a Tamagotchi and do the same thing, dude.
No, come on, don't patronize me.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm kidding. Coming from the guy who honestly was too scared to play Jumpstart 4th grade. Don't even try me right now, bro. He tried. What was it?
Me in front of the pod,
Clue Quest or something?
It was Clue Finders. It was Clue Finders 4th grade. Okay.
Yeah,
and eventually I mustered up the courage by like 6th grade. I was playing it. Okay.
It was Pooh Finders. That was what we settled on. That was the game that you played. But no. And then I've actually been playing a lot of Tekken 8 in the past few days, and I'm having a great time. What a beautiful game. And I'm a console gamer, Clay. Don't feel bad about being a console gamer. It's beautiful to just be able to sit on your couch or whatever and just hang out and really relax, because gaming on a PC, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how nice your gamer chair is. No offense to anybody who's got a gamer chair. I don't think it says relaxing. You're upright, and your posture's like, it's like you're riding a motorcycle. It's too much. It's too much. I can't relax. So that's where I'm at with that.
That's funny. Greg, where are you at right now?
Well, I've had a pretty busy work week, so games have kind of taken a backseat this week.
Sure.
But I've had a few pretty great PUBG sessions with Jake.
Yeah.
That's been fun.
Chicken dinner the other night.
Yeah, we did. We had chicken dinner the other night. We posted, those of you that are listening, we posted a clip from last week on our Instagram at 3 Grasstouchers. You can check that out. Little chicken dinner action is pretty cool in PUBG. Honestly, gonna get back more into Baldur's Gate 3. I spoke last episode about Elden Ring DLC, which hopefully any day now will be announced.
Still no news on that, right?
No, but they FromSoft and Bandai Namco did like a soft update to over Steam. They did some sort of they put a patch out like a week ago. And they had not put a patch out in like 6 months or something. So people are thinking that it's maybe kind of inklings of a pre-patch for the DLC.
This is so desperate. You want this Elden Ring?
I know, like copium.
So bad. Every episode is just like, it's coming. I know it's coming. They haven't said anything, but I know it's coming.
That ear to the ground, like, hey, the guys are saying that maybe this is the framework for the DLC that's going to come out in 6 years.
Yeah,
I as somebody who likes Star Citizen, I have tons of appreciation for Greg's anticipation in just edging ever closer to that DLC.
Yeah, it's exciting. FromSoft is kind of notorious for kind of just shadow releasing DLC or not announcing DLC, or they'll announce DLC one day before they drop it.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty cool. Actually, the one thing I'm really excited about...
So if you drop off the face of the planet, it's because the DLC came out, and that's how I should know.
Yeah, so you guys never. But the one thing I'm really excited about is actually not a video game. I'm going to see the one and the only Cory Wong this weekend, live and in concert. He's playing at the House of Blues in Dallas. So on Sunday night, not super convenient, especially because of the drive. It's like an hour and a half from my house, and I have work the next morning. But it'll be great, and I've got some buddies I'm going with. Jake was originally going to make the trip, but some work stuff came up, and that's cool. I'm just, I've cried myself to sleep a few nights in a row now, and we're over it. We're past it. It's all good.
SMH my head, dude. I can't stand myself for missing out on that one. It's for the record, Greg and I saw Cory Wong here in North Carolina one of the times that he visited, and that kind of sparked like, hey, every time Cory Wong is in like your neck of the woods or my neck of the woods, we got to see this guy because this is incredible. So I was very, very, very on board, but couldn't swing it. So
I'm curious. I'm actually unfamiliar. Who's Cory Wong?
Oh, coming right up. Go ahead, take it away, Greg.
So Cory Wong is a rhythm guitarist. Well, he's a guitarist, but kind of became famous as a rhythm guitarist. I guess he kind of got his a name for himself playing with Wolfpack.
Okay.
Their big live album, live from Madison Square Garden, when they sold out Madison Square Garden and did that big video and everything. He plays with them in that concert. They do a song called Cory Wong where he just like plays rhythm guitar the entire time. It's super cool. And then they
make a joke. The guitar is so funky. His parents named him after a Wolfpack song. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Cory Wong. It's so good, dude.
It's great. Yeah. And first of all, those of you out there who have not seen Wolfpack, you should listen. And that's specifically that concert live from Madison Square Garden. But he started collaborating with a lot of different groups and then formed his own band. Cory and the Wong Notes is one of the many groups that he does things with. The group that he tours with. So typically when he plays live and on tour, he has he's got a drum set player, so he's playing guitar. He's got a drum set player. He's got a piano player and a bass player, and there's like a horn section. So there's like a trumpet, trombone, some saxophones, things like that. And it's largely instrumental. Like there's he has several, actually his newest album, and newest songs have a lot of vocal tunes, right? But he kind of made a name for himself as a rhythm guitarist and a guitar player. And
so
just incredible.
Is he singing, or it's just features other singers, or?
I think there's one or two songs that he does sing on, but that's not like his main thing. Mm-hmm. I've got a video pulled up if you tune into my stream real quick, and we'll do a little listening. This won't make it to the pod. I won't put the music in there, but this is him playing live. It's just the very, very beginning of a live show in his hometown. Yeah, it doesn't feel much better than that in like music in 2024. Like the is so good, and this is his whole thing. It's like kind of echoing back to, well, Jared mentioned Earth, Wind and Fire, like Parliament and like all those great funk bands.
Very
he's clearly inspired by. He's from Detroit, and that era of like old school funk music is still alive and well in the local music scene. When Greg and I saw him, they started the concert that way, and it was absolutely ridiculous. They played with a group called Truesdale, and this was their.
I love these guys.
Well, one of the tunes. Truesdale is rad.
My
dude.
favorite song.
Truesdale did
Tempur-Pedic
I was talking about the Tempur-Pedics.
All I'm learning right now is that Jake hasn't sprung for YouTube Premium.
I literally purchased it today.
Whoa! Oh, this song rocks, dude.
That is an incredible group, and it's cool because in the Wolfpackiverse, right, you've got Theo Katzman, you've got Cory Wong, you've got Jack Stratton, you've got all these guys that have their own things going on, and then they have this collective called Wolfpack, and everything is also branching out of there. So if you listen to Wolfpack at all, it'll be like Feet Antoine Stanley, and you're like, let me Google that name, and then it'll be like Feet Cory Wong, and you're like, let me Google that name, and you go down all these wonderful rabbit holes of great musicians.
Forgot
and
Joe
Cory Wong's
Dart.
one of them. So.
That's very rude of you, dude.
M-effing Dart. I can't say them all. There's like 20 guys.
Well, there's four. The four main guys. He's one of the main guys.
I'm sorry. I know he's the main guy.
I'm going to tell him you said.
Sorry. Also, fun side note, Greg knows a guy who's friends with one of the drummers that is in the Wolfpackerverse, and so we have little degrees of separation, kind of fun thing there. But anyways, what I've been playing lately is my Steam Deck. I've been playing Borderlands 3. I've gotten farther and farther and farther. I'm like level 21 or something now, and that game continues to be super, super casual, not on harder difficulty, just kind of hanging out. I did start Mass Effect 3, but I didn't make it super far. And
I'm here to tell you, stop playing Mass Effect and start playing Baldur's Gate 3. This game rocks.
I know.
You would love this game.
So we might as well jump in with both feet. I'm so stoked to hear all of your opinions, all three of you guys. I respect your opinions, and we tend to like a lot of the same things. And I think if Knights of the Old Republic means anything to you, your RPG sort of like, lineage having anything to do with, branching choices and everything, from what I understand, Baldur's Gate 3 is that thing, right? So tell me all about it. What's your experience with the game?
I'm curious, Greg, you did a great job kind of introing it, such that I went and picked it up based on your description of it. Have you played much more of it? Have you been busy with work? Not
a lot. Part of it is like, since we started the pod, I've been trying to play games we talk about on the pod, and we kind of got really into PUBG and Borderlands and other things. I've played a little more than the last time we talked about it. The the thing that's cool about the game is, nothing that the game does on an individual level, in terms of any individual aspect of the game, right? Whether that's the story or the gameplay or the idea of choice, or the setting or the aesthetic, or how the combat feels, and the options of character classes and their abilities. All those individual things have been done really well in other games. But this game does all of it so well, right? Yeah. Like, there's just not, like, when you play the game, I've not yet had a moment where I'm like, this part of combat's boring, or that skill is kind of useless, or that story thing doesn't make sense, or I'm not going to pursue that side quest. That's just like filler content. Like, it just doesn't exist, like I think of like the like side quest is a good example, right? A game that does side quests really well is The Witcher 3, right? That game does side quests super well. This is like Witcher 3 level side quests, right? Like, you are actually invested, you go off the beaten path, and you are actually excited to do this thing. That's just a microcosm, right, of what makes the game so great. Is that my experience is that every individual aspect is so finely tuned, and I've had such an awesome experience when I've played it.
Where are you at? I'm just curious, like, progression wise, like, where are you at in the story?
Let me look.
Do you know what level you are?
I don't know, like, just let me see. I guess I've got 12 hours in the game, something like that.
Okay. I've got like 80 or something. Like, I've like.
Oh, so you're further than me.
Like, so completely into this thing. So it's the way it's broken up is like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And it's kind of interesting. This is maybe one of the only times that the game will tell you, like, you are moving on to the next section. So, like, finish everything that you want to do here before you move on, which is pretty helpful. But I just started Act 3.
Does it literally do like a credit roll, like, this is Act 1?
Yes, but
go do stuff like.
Yes, and the reason it does that is because, like, it is really, really incredible. And I wanted to talk to Greg about this because it seems like no two playthroughs of this game are anything alike. It kind of takes the idea of, so, like, I grew up, I played Knights of the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic 2. I loved Mass Effect. And those games played with, like, choice, like, do I want to do a good playthrough, or do I want to do an evil playthrough, or maybe somewhere in the middle? And I always felt like it wasn't much of an option. It was either, like, the good or the bad, and then you would kind of get punished for splitting the difference. You know what I mean? Like there was no.
Yeah, you really had to pick a side one way or another at each, especially the main sort of like critical path, big story mission, kind of end of the mission decision point. You kind of had to pick one, and you're gonna have a pro and a con to each of those.
And kind of famously with Mass Effect, it felt like they would give you these decisions throughout, and then by the end, it maybe didn't really matter so much to the story. They were telling the story that they wanted to tell.
I agree 100%.
I feel like this...
What it did do was, in that game specifically, because there was a 1 and 2 and 3, you didn't know this when you played number 1, but in number 2, there would be side quests and stuff that called back to 1, and decisions you made in 1 affected the world in 2. And the same goes from 2 to 3, and I think even 1 to 3. But at the end of the third one, it like super didn't matter, and that was the whole point of contention in the discourse. But anyway.
in defense of BioWare, at the time, it was pretty groundbreaking. Anyways,
for sure.
Having your save game go from one game to another game was like the way that they imported this file, like sick, really sick.
But yeah, so I think this just kind of takes that idea and just kind of blows it up in a way that's really, really rewarding because there's a ton of shades of gray. It doesn't seem like it's judging you for doing a good playthrough, but choosing the evil option or choosing the sort of middle area, gray area option. And the way it all builds, like, I've been listening to like podcasts, listening to people watching YouTube videos that are like, oh, these are the things you missed in Act 1. And I missed all of them because the way that you go about like these encounters, I almost want to like break it down for you. I don't know how many spoilers you want here, but it's like there are
relatively
in the
few,
first act.
But if there's like a cool story that you want to share, that's fine.
Sure. So in the first act, there's like these 3 sort of factions. There's like the Tieflings, which is this like group of like refugees. They're trying to get to Baldur's Gate, but they've taken refuge in this grove, this secluded grove that's run by these druids. And the druids don't like that they're there, but both these groups are getting attacked by goblin raiders, right? And you can side with any one of these groups. You can play them against each other. Anything that you can do, it's sort of like a powder keg, and things that you do can set it off, and you can, based on what you do, it totally changes the trajectory of like how you proceed through the game. In a way that's like kind of amazing, and when you play through not realizing like how much effect your choices are having, and then you see somebody else playing and they like didn't do it the way you did, you're like, I didn't know you could do it that way. I don't know, it's really impressive. It's like I've never seen this level of agency, I guess, and it feels like really rewarding. It feels like your playthrough is your playthrough, and I think it's the whole thing is a Dungeons and Dragons based game. And I think I've heard people say that this is like the closest you can get to like a tabletop D&D experience as a video game.
I've heard that
which,
too.
of course,
I wondered about how telegraphed that is to you as a user. Like, do you open up the inventory menu and you see like the D20 saving throw, sort of like all those stats? Is that something that you have to sort of concern yourself with as you play through the game, or can you get away with just like playing the game and never worrying about your stats?
Somewhat. I think it takes all the math out of the equation.
Right.
And so it's like there is like a little digital dice that appears on the screen and rolls, and if you roll a 1, that's like an instant fail. If you roll a 20, that's an instant success, and anything in between is like, it'll give you like, okay, you need a 15 to pass this skill check, and you roll your D20, and you can add modifiers to it. But it does all the heavy lifting of that kind of thing. I don't know if any of you guys have dabbled in D&D or are familiar with that.
I have friends
with
that
D&D.
have, but I haven't.
Yeah, I have never played personally, but I've like watched people play. There's tons of stuff on YouTube. But yeah, I think this is like so much more enjoyable than an actual D&D campaign would be for me, because you're dealing with, something like scheduling a podcast. You have to get 3 or 4 people on the same page and tell a story together. This is like Larian, the developer, is like the dungeon master here, and you just get to jump in the sandbox and play. And I found it really fun. I think another thing is like your companions. You find like most of your companions right away. I'm curious, Greg, which companions are you rolling with, or which ones have you found?
What's the green ogre-looking girl?
There's Lizelle,
Fiona.
Lizelle, yeah.
Fiona.
Lizelle, Asterion. It's been a while since I played the game. I'm gonna get back into it because this is making me really excited to play the game.
It rules.
Yeah, so it's really it's really interesting how you can choose to treat the companions different ways. Like you can be nice to them, you can be mean to them, you can seduce them, and it's
that's another thing. They're all very horny.
I see what you've been.
Yeah, so in like Mass Effect,
7
for instance,
of Greg's 8 hours have been.
I've just been trying
prison?
to romance all the characters.
Is this one of those stories where you guys stop and you go, "We're talking about Alpha Hole Prison"?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, Jared, you must have spaced out. We're actually talking about it.
But it's also
it's crazy how fast you can like romance them though. That's the thing is like Mass Effect or whatever. You have to put in all the work. In the entire game, you're like constantly talking to your companion, trying to like do their loyalty quest or whatever to make them happy, and then right before the climax of the game, you have your climax with your companion or whatever. But this one, it's just like Lazelle's a great example. Like she's just like, "Hey, want a bone?" Just randomly at the camp, and it like 10 hours in, and I just think that's like interesting that they do that, and then they don't like you can romance multiple people. Something you brought up that was interesting, Greg, is like the permadeath aspect of it. That I guess it's true for your companion characters that if they die and you don't have like an easy way to revive them, they would stay dead. And in fact, like I've heard of people doing playthroughs where they don't find a certain companion that appears very early on, and then they just go through the whole story not even knowing that person exists. Which would just instantly change because they all seem so woven into the main story, and all the side stories like kind of flesh out that main story. That I can't imagine doing Act 2 without Shadowheart, for instance. And
so from a technical perspective, what you start to realize, from what I gather, is that it's a dang miracle that they got a group of humans to make a game that does this. That it has.
It kind of boggles the mind.
Can you picture the storyboard and sort of the planning and the meetings of like, all right, so we're gonna let the players do this, and then this will happen. Like, there's not a way to, at least for right now, there's not a way to sort of procedurally or algorithmically just like magic that into existence. Like you do have to plan all of those interactions, from what I understand. It's seriously impressive. I think people on YouTube have been like trying to break the game in a way, and that's part of it. Was released in early access like in 2020 or 2021, and they've been, I think, poking at the edges, trying to figure out like where are the glitches or the flaws, like, and I think they've kind of hammered a lot of that out. But it is really incredible the way that like you can play this any way you want. You can kill every companion and then just do it all solo, which I think would severely hinder like the way you play the game. But I mean that lends itself to like speed runs and breaking the game in very funny and interesting ways. But but that also the permadeath thing, like it applies to like NPCs too. So like and a developer's been like really really good about, if you kill an NPC that you shouldn't, that NPC stays dead, but there's a way to do the quest that doesn't involve them. So they write in like backups and the backups for the backups so that you can like not feel like you have to save scrum. I mean, I save scum through everything because I want to do it my way, but it kind of it
it's interesting because I think they're trying to play into that D&D element of like there's no going back. You can't just say, wait, I want to do over. And so they kind of they want to encourage you to just let it ride.
Right.
I'm curious. Do you guys?
If they've got a plan for it all, you might like the outcome better than what you think you were planning to do.
Right. Right. And the game is also like really rewarding when it comes to that too. It's like sometimes the option that you think is a failure or you think is like maybe going to screw you up down the line or whatever. Stick with it because it could be even better or more interesting than the quote unquote good option. Or if you had succeeded on a roll, sometimes that's not as interesting as if you fail the roll and then you get into a big fight and you kill somebody and then you got to pivot and go a totally different direction with it. So I've found it a lot of fun. I'm curious, when you guys play this type of game, are you guys all like familiar with these types of games? Like, I mean, did you play Mass Effect? Did you play Knights of the Old Republic?
I am.
Like, yeah, sure.
I think we all were pretty into Mass Effect at one point, right?
Yeah.
Or no, Greg's the one that hasn't played Mass Effect. Do I have that right?
I have not. I have played KOTOR. I used to hide my Xbox controller under my sheets when I would go to bed at night when KOTOR came out, so that when my stepmom came in the bedroom and I'd just turn the TV off because she apparently didn't understand that an Xbox and a TV are separately powered objects. But I would just turn my TV off and I would have my Xbox controller up in the sheets, and I'd be like fake snoring, like, And then, like, she'd leave, and I'd just turn the TV on, and there'd be Bastila Shan, but yeah, love KOTOR.
Jared, what's your RPG background? You play this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I played a lot of Mass Effect, and I grew up playing a lot of Elder Scrolls. I got really into Morrowind as a kid. It blew my mind. I couldn't believe that there was a game that was that open-ended that like let me do the things. I would just walking out punching someone in the face and dealing with the consequences was like insane for me. And it just kind of blew up from there. So I suppose
I think Morrowind was kind of a watershed for that kind of thing for me as well. Like kind of blew my mind. I don't think I think back then if you killed an NPC it might actually screw up your whole save and you might have to go back and reload, but this I think is the first game where I've truly felt like they have thought of everything. I'll give you an example, and this is just one that I found on YouTube. Is like there's an orc bartender that he's never in combat. You have no reason to kill this guy, but he is in a cutscene for if you go on a date with one of your companions, you go to this bar and the bartender brings you drinks, and that's it. That's like his entire role. But if you kill him before that cutscene, what happened? Who brings you do the drinks just like float to the table by themselves? Like, or is there a glitch? Does he show up even though he's already dead? No. They programmed in that he has a brother, like a almost identical twin brother that is not in the game. You can't find this guy. He's probably just like in the code, like he's not persistent in the world. Like he shows up and he brings you your drinks, and instead of the original character's name is Hank, but this guy's name is Honk. And it's just like the fact that they thought like somebody's gonna kill this bartender and then nobody's gonna be there to bring the drinks or whatever. Like they thought of everything. And it's just cool. I don't know. It's been really, really cool to kind of dig into.
It sounds like a generational game. There are few of those that are like, yeah, you played this because everybody. It's like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas was like, not that I was allowed to play that game, but at the time I remember everyone was like,
"Mom, if you're listening, don't worry, I wasn't actually playing."
Right, Halo 2. Like you have these games just because they're the best game. There's no question they did everything right that you can do right at the time, and yeah, I'll need to play this game eventually. But
I know
it's interesting because I would not have expected this. I'm not super familiar with Baldur's Gate. Like, did you guys see this coming at all?
No, not even a little bit. The fact that it's a third one of a thing, I'm like, wait, I don't know anything about 1 and 2. Like, what is it? I know of lots of games that have gone into early access and not they've had a failure to launch of some kind, and it's so refreshing on that aspect, right? To see a game go from being early supported by these sort of backers and early access community building, and then it finally comes out and it really is 1.0, like no joke, this is the game, and then it's received this well. Like, what a dream. And side note, how much do you think it would suck to be working on an RPG at like a different studio, and then Baldur's Gate 3 comes out and you're like, they did what?
I mean,
no,
to work at Bethesda?
because now the paradigm, the goalposts have moved so far. And
yeah,
like,
I mean, it's
we got to rethink our whole life right now.
yeah, it's like Breath of the Wild. I think for open world games, it was like now we have a million Breath of the Wild clones or Breath of the Wild lookalikes that are trying to do what they did. But
see, I'm a contrarian on Breath of the Wild, so I don't know
okay,
if that was
okay.
much. Yeah.
Are you not a fan?
Okay, so I'm gonna
wait.
call
Where
a
do the other guys?
fast.
Where do you stand on Breath of the Wild?
Real fast. I'm gonna get a beer and I'll be right back, and we're gonna jump into why I'm a contrarian on Breath of the Wild. Greg's not drinking right now. Sorry to tease you with a Coors Light, Dig.
We were talking about politics while you were gone, but we'll get back into the gaming thing.
Cool. I can't wait to hear what I missed when I go to edit all these.
Yeah.
So the thing about Breath of the Wild is, when it first came out, obviously I was stoked. I didn't have a Switch when it first came out, but I got one later, and I was on track to get a Switch when it came out. I was just kind of waiting for the timing, right? I was like, I'm waiting for my killer app. What's going to make me buy a Switch? Should it be Breath of the Wild? Let's find out. And my brother, who's a huge Zelda guy, was like, dude, you got to see Breath of the Wild. You won't believe it. It's so cool. You can do this, and you can do this. I was like, cool. I'm in town. I think I was visiting from Arizona, and I went into the basement of our parents' house, and he had it on the big screen, surround sound. And I was like, this is as good as it's going to get. The Switch is docked. I've got the Pro Controller, and he sets me loose in Breath of the Wild. And I'm like, all right. So here's the game. And I start, and I wake up, and I go out there. And I'm like, cool. And I grab a stick.
Vista.
Right.
Beautiful Vista.
And I kill. Yeah, we got a nice Vista in there. That's right. I get a stick, and I kill some guys with it, and then the stick breaks. And I go, you got to be kidding me.
And your brother's like, right? Now you have to make another one. Go ahead.
It's one of these
Yeah.
Right.
where I got to survive. I got to stay
It's arc.
warm. I got to feed myself.
Yeah.
I got what? So you're telling me in a game where I can pick up floating cartoon hearts off of the ground and heal myself, it's also now in this version of this is a different game now. That's not a thing anymore. That I have to eat food and that heals me, and I have to cook that food over a campfire, and I have to do this and I have to do this. So I bounced off of it so hard. Also, it looks horrible. It doesn't look good. It doesn't perform good.
God.
The Switch can't handle it. Okay, I'm a spoiled brat when it comes to like,
this is nonsense. This is the worst
smoothly.
take ever.
Let me finish.
There's a learning curve. I will tell you that. I will tell
Let
you.
me finish.
I might have bounced off it. Go ahead.
It's not a learning curve. It's obstacles that they put in there for no good reason. What happened later was I got a Switch, and I decided I wanted Maxwell, our oldest son, who's now 7. I wanted him to see a game that was like kid friendly, and maybe it was above his sort of pay grade, but it was something that you've probably seen a YouTube video of this at some point, son. Let me show you this game. And I thought, now's the time. All right, here we go. So I pay full price for a game that came out 5 years ago and doesn't run well. And I went and put it in the Switch.
Nintendo.
And it runs slightly better than it did when it first came out, because it's been patched and improved a little bit over time, thank goodness. And I start to play it, and I'm like, okay, it's not so bad. I don't know what changed between then and now. This was like, I'm going to say 9 months ago, not quite a year ago. I did all this. And I played enough to, I'm going to say like 40 hours maybe. I did 2 of the, I did a whole bunch of shrines. I did a whole bunch of the quests. I made it through 2 of the, what is it, Giga Chad monster shrines?
The Divine Beasts.
Temples. Divine Beasts, that's the one. I thought the characters were sort of familiar in like, there's an amount of silly in Zelda that's like good and acceptable, and that seemed familiar and good to me. I got really tired of getting good weapons and then them breaking, and now I have to go farm for things to fix those weapons. And I got super tired of, I want to go over there. It's too cold. I better go get some hot sauce or whatever and like eat some peppers so that I can survive in the cold climate. It's too hot. I better get some sweet tea, Arnold Palmer or something, and cool myself off. Like Now here's the thing.
This is so funny. He's describing like every video game where there's like a progression system where like you earn armor that makes it so that you don't have to eat the hot
How do I get
thing.
the armor,
so
Clay? Tell me, how do I get the
armor? So that you can progress throughout the thing, so it becomes less difficult over time. Like,
so how do I get the armor that protects me from the cold? Answer that.
You were just grinding it out with like 3 hearts, no weapons, nothing. You were just like not progressing.
What do I have to do to get the armor? What do I have to do to get the armor?
You buy it.
I have no idea.
How do I buy it?
Wait.
I have to have the resources.
Yeah.
And how do I get the resources? I have to stop playing the game and go do a chore to grind.
I never once felt like this. I was so charmed by Breath of the Wild.
It wasn't charming.
This is so funny.
I don't know why. I don't know. So here's the thing. What I realized about myself is that in general, I don't love games that have those survival mechanics. It's a thing I bounce off of. It's a thing I don't like when any game does it. And so having played, I'll say half, right? Because I did 2 of the Divine Beasts, approximately half of the game. I legitimately enjoyed the traps I would set up for enemies, shooting bombs, and getting the like superpowers or whatever. It was all very, very interesting, and I can appreciate good game design when I see it. Like, there's a lot of cool mechanics in the game, and it's Nintendo. Like, I know everybody likes the game, so job well done. I know they sold a bazillion copies, but there were enough components in the game. I felt like I had to stop doing the things I like about the game so that I could go get a thing, which was just put there artificially anyway, to get me through the obstacle, which was put there artificially anyway. So, like, I just felt like I had to stop playing the game that I like to play. The way that I like to play the game, I didn't get to do that 100% of the time, and that felt sort of punishing rather than, rewarding or open or cool or fun. So yeah. I think there's.
I'm curious.
Did you mechanics that I bounce off of?
Did you dip into Tears of the Kingdom at all?
I haven't played Tears of the Kingdom at all. I haven't bought it, and the boys don't actually have an interest. I tried to turn them on to Breath of the Wild because I would love for them to enjoy a game like that. We had this neighbor kid that the boys played with, and he had Breath of the Wild, and he was like, my dad showed me how to do blah, blah, blah. So then I felt bad. I was like, son, you want me to teach you how to do that? And he was like, no, I'm good. And so he was like, if you go here, you can go get Majora's Mask from the other game in Breath of the Wild. And I was like, don't cite the old magic to me, witch. I was there when it was real. Yeah. Like I've been playing video. This neighbor kid, he would come over and be like, hey, did you know in Breath of the Wild you can do this? And I was like, did you know I've been playing video games since before you were alive? Like, shut up. Anyway, so yeah, what else do you guys, don't make me feel all alone here. What are some other things you guys like bounce off of and hate? Because for me, it's survival mechanics in games that don't need them.
I mean, I can go. Greg.
Okay, yeah. Greg, anything that rhymes with Fortnite. So I don't get the Fortnite hype. PUBG is as far as I will go into the Battle Royale thing, right? I don't know, anything that like streamers are super, super into. I don't know what it is about that, but just like anything that's like the flavor of the month, like Jared brought up Among Us. Like, I just don't understand the last episode Jared brought up Among Us, I think.
Yeah.
And I just don't get the hype with some of these games that like are clearly geared towards people who've never played video games before, right? Like, That's kind of, I can't remember what Jared said exactly, but it's like Among Us is one of those things that like there's nothing really unique.
They're the Stanley water bottles of video games.
Yeah.
They are. It's like it's a water bottle. We've had these for like a long time.
Yeah, and I need to hide my Stanley from the frame, but
no. Hey, there's no hate for Stanleys. It's just like, don't act like it's groundbreaking. It's a thing that's been around for a long time.
It's a cover, yeah.
So I think anything that's like I don't know, like even when I saw the whole Power World thing come out, like of this is the second most popular game ever on Steam, I just did the biggest eye roll of all time. It's like I just don't care. Like, it's popular because 13-year-olds like playing it, and like not because people with a brain would enjoy it. I'm sorry, it's a hot take, whatever. But
Greg, just wait until I drop my mod, Owl World. It's where all of the monsters are Owl from Home Improvement, and you have to catch them. Okay, then tell me you're not into that game. Okay,
Alf World. They're all Alf.
Come on, man. I only have so much time.
But so things that are just like I would just call them like needlessly popular or baselessly popular, right? And
I feel like those are popular because people are streaming them and the streamers add their own personality. And so like something like Among Us, it's like an opportunity for the person on Twitch to like put their whole personality into it. You know what I mean? And it almost like those games blow up because 13-year-olds are not playing them. They're watching people play them.
Well,
Yes.
and not to mention, you could take the corporate
whole
sort
knock-on
of
effect.
the corporate overlord angle of, hey, you're a streamer under this agency, and as a part of being in our agency, it's written in your contract that if we say you have to play this, then you have to play this for at least this amount of time. And so some game comes out, and the streamer with 1 million followers is contractually obligated to play it for some amount of time, which artificially boosts the popularity of the game, even if it's so.
Right.
There's also that kind of thing. And Greg, I have a theory about us being like anti-popular in our art tastes. You remember in college, because we were both music majors, for those of you that don't know, Greg and I went to college together for music. We had a very Hogwarts conservatory style, like old school music program, right? The professors would punch you on the arm, and you'd be shamed for being late, and the expectations were very high, and we were all like geese at a foie gras factory. We were forced to ingest copious amounts of Bach and Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and Debussy, and like it or not, before you leave this place, you will appreciate and probably love classical music if you didn't already. Now, some people are sold out friggin' band nerds like Gregory Davis, and there's and for some people that was not a stretch in the first place. But for me, I had to fake my way through enjoying History of Western Music 2. I had to fake my way through enjoying Music Theory 4. I had to pretend to, oh yeah, I really get it when we listen to atonal serialism that sounds, bleep, bloop, blork, stupid music. Like, I can't stand this. And with that
4 minutes, 33 seconds.
Yeah, John Cage, right. And so with that comes a like down with pop music attitude. And I think that carries over into our appreciation of other art, where we think we have to have a big brain take about the things we enjoy, and we get like hypercritical because we've been trained from college to like be critical of art in a way that some people are not. Does that sound familiar at all? Do you feel like that permeates your sort of life at all?
Yeah, I've caught myself, and I think it bleeds into the gaming thing too, right? Where there was a long period of time where I just like would not listen to hip hop or rap like at all, and I was just like, cause yeah, it's not good music. Yeah, it's not good music, right? And then I had to do some reflection, some self-reflection, and realize that like there's really no such thing really as bad music. There's music we like and music we don't, and there are reasons we like music and reasons we don't like music, right? And there are reasons people like video games and reasons people don't like them, and that's up to the individual person. But I think that I have like PUBG is a big step for me, right? Like liking a game like that is similar to to Fortnite, right? That a lot of people love and enjoy, and I heard forever people say, "Oh, you got to play this game, got to play this game." That's a big step, right? And who knows? Maybe I'll play a Fortnite. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. You need to take that out of the podcast. Don't let anyone say that I ever said that. But yeah, no, I totally agree. Another category just for me is just like first person shooters in general. Like, it was a big step for me to get into Siege because I never really, other than Halo, I never really played COD. I never really played Battlefield that much, right? And so, yeah, like Jared, what about you? Are there certain kind of like you immediately just like bounce off that kind of thing?
Historically, yeah, I've always hated Legend of Zelda games. I really have. I've encountered them since I was a boy. Okay, I played I did the one on Super Nintendo.
This is crazy. This is
Clay is
blasphemy.
Well,
incredulous.
this is my problem with
I
those
can't
games.
believe this.
Now, let me talk about that for a second. This is my problem with those games. So, it's not that I expect a game to be brain dead and have like absolutely no semblance of like puzzle solving or anything, but my issue was the game would allow me to run face first into a wall and then and there's no funnel. It's a flat wall and you have to just blindly search around for a way out. It's a dark room. And as a kid, I was like, I would get stuck and I'm like, I have no idea what to do. I cannot afford to get whatever the game guides were. I'm not going to call Nintendo support like those people who are like, I remember when I would call Nintendo support. I wasn't going to do that. So I would just drop the game. And I didn't have an N64, and I've tried to go back and play Ocarina of Time and whatever that Majora's game is. I'm not interested in going back and playing those. And I've seen enough of the new ones on the Switch to know that it's not for me. And again, it's another one of those. And Clay, no offense if you enjoyed that game, because I'm obviously in the minority here, and so is Jake. But I've seen those games, and it's another situation where I'm like, I've already played this game. If I wanted to play this game, I would honestly fire up Skyrim before I were to play one of those games. Not because the charm is just totally lost on me, but because there's just something that I just don't engage with what they're trying to. There's a linearness to it that just bothers me. I feel like there's nothing unique about what I'm doing in the game. It's just, it's Mass Effect all over again. It's a bunch of lines that squiggle around and then they all end up in the same place, in my opinion. But I don't know. I've just never really liked those games.
I have a dirty secret about Ocarina of Time. I actually never beat that game like top to bottom, and I was an N64 bro, sold out for sure. But I got stuck at the water temple, and of course I did.
Yeah,
because that is a ridiculous level. Like there's no unless you understand the design language of the game, like at a pretty deep level. And honestly, the only way that you could learn the design language of the game is to have gotten past the water temple and played more of the game. But I remember getting stuck at the water temple, not knowing which way was up, and just kind of dropping it for, I don't know, GoldenEye or whatever. The only Zelda game that I've played start to finish, and it was because I got the guide at GameStop at the same time that I bought the game, was Wind Waker. I love Wind Waker. I think that game rocks. I think the premise of it was really interesting. Listen, don't. I see that face.
That is
incredulous
weird.
Again.
That is weird. It's the same formula. I didn't
that
like Wind Waker either.
I don't know why, but for some reason, Wind Waker, I don't know if it's the aesthetic, if it's the sailboat, if it's the weird fish guy that pops up once in a while. Like, I don't know what it is about that one, but it was my one. Like, that was my Zelda game, and I played it more than once, and I had this, like, just worn out, paperback strategy guide that whenever I would try to just play the game, and if I got lost, I'd look at the thing, and I think that was the best way. And maybe it was my age, too. I wasn't stupid, but, like, I was relatively young playing on the GameCube, and, like, I didn't have
I think that's part of
patience,
it. I remember I remember being young and trying to play the the Game Boy Zeldas, and like you were describing, Jared, it's like I have no idea what they want me to do, and they don't give you any direction. And I think that's probably somewhat like if Jake, if your son was jumping into Breath of the Wild and there's nothing saying go here, do this, these are your explicit instructions, I could imagine being like, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what to do. I can play around in the world, but I'm not actually accomplishing anything, and because you're not making any progress, it's not rewarding in that way.
And my sword keeps breaking, and what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. No, I definitely have those similar stories with the Game Boy Zeldas and Ocarina of Time, and it was only later when I was an adult and I felt like I could decipher the language of the video game and learn how to do these dungeons, and that I went back and appreciated those games for what they were. But
I feel like I have to backtrack the tiniest bit and throw Breath of the Wild a bone. I love the shrines in Breath of the Wild. And my sister-in-law, who lives with us, she was playing Breath of the Wild at the same time I was on her own save file, and we were sort of comparing, and I would watch her and she would watch me, and she'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go fold clothes. Yeah, I haven't seen this part yet. I don't want spoilers, you know." And so we had this back and forth of like, you know, where are you at? Where am I at? That's probably what helped me come to think of it with the momentum that what little momentum I did have for getting through the 2 Divine Beasts and getting through the chunk of the game was having somebody to talk with about it. And I think maybe that's what, in hindsight, maybe that's what led to some of the success of some of these games, is that they encouraged you, or perhaps forced you, to go talk to a buddy about it. Be like, hey, this Ocarina of Time game, it rocks, right? And you're like, what? No, I'm stuck on the water temple. And you're like, oh, what you got to do is...
Oh, you're a loser. You know? Get away from me.
So you go into your 4th grade classroom and talk to your buddy about, you know, how to beat this game. But anyway, I think there's a...
yeah, I mean, this is honestly... This is why I wanted to talk to you guys about Baldur's Gate.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Is because I feel like that game is so set up for everybody's going to play it differently, and to kind of swap stories and be like, I didn't know you could do that, or I didn't know you could accomplish this that way. That's like why I want all of you guys to play Baldur's Gate, and on a future episode without me just discuss like your different playthroughs, because I want to hear how other people are doing it.
But it sounds like we should, and it sounds like in Baldur's Gate 3 at least, like, you can't fail. Right, because of all those safeguards, because of all the twisting and turning.
Well, there's a few like permadeath like scenarios where if you make the wrong decision like stupidly, like it'll kind of warn you. But yeah, I've definitely seen some like you failed or you died Dark Souls screens. But
right. I mean, I'm sure I'm a big save scummer like you are. I think there's in anything that might have twists and turns like that, I'm going to save a lot. I will try to power through and not rely on them. But if I find myself at a certain crossroads, you know, just kind of load up some other saves. So now I'm curious, Clay, what you bounce off of. What are you not about in game design and that kind of thing?
Breath of the Wild.
So I can't. Yeah. Actually, now that you mention it, Tears of the Kingdom. No, I can't play a 2D game. I hate side scrollers.
That's a hot
funny
take.
I mentioned playing Game Boy. Yeah, I know it is, because that's so much of the lineage of, you know, people growing up in the 80s and 90s. Playing Game Boy, I definitely played a ton of side-scrollers. I remember playing Metroid. But, I just can't do it anymore. And I don't know if it's because they each have their own, like, different physics, and you have to, like, time... like your jump and your double jump, and it's all just platforming, and I just get so sick of it, and I just feel like they're hard. I hate hard games. Maybe that's a hot take. Greg, I know you love Elden Ring, but like FromSoft games, can't do those. I tried Bloodborne, and I kept telling myself like I'm gonna stick with it, and I made a tiny bit of progress, but I was just like, why am I doing this? Like I'm a Grasstoucher, right? Like I don't have the hours and hours that I would have to dedicate to get good at this. But for some reason 2D games, I feel like they're just old. I don't know, they're just outdated. And I know that there's like incredible 2D games that are coming out even today, but they just feel like we've grown beyond that as gamers, and we have so many options of like and maybe it's just because when I really hit my adolescence, it was N64 and PlayStation, and then, you know, growing up into
when we
GameCube
were all coming,
and Xbox
I think
and all
this
that kind
is
of stuff.
probably true of all 4 of us, although some of us have appreciation for 2D stuff more than others. The dawn of 3D games was when we like came online, right? And we were able to play games or save our money or go to Blockbuster or whatever. And so the Banjo-Kazooies and Spyros of the world were waiting for us with open arms. And even if most of them were, you know, just platforming like copy paste of each other, those were the thing to be playing. And so I feel you on the 2Ds a little bit. I think there's certain games that I've enjoyed, but for the most part, I tell you what happens to me a lot, and I've come to make peace with this. I have a Steam library of over 100 games. I have games in my like Switch carrying case right now that I've not finished, and I've just accepted. I'm at peace with it. I'm just not going to finish Metroid Dread. I'm just not going to finish that one game in my Steam library that everybody said was really good. Like, I don't have to be a completionist anymore. I've freed myself from those shackles. But there's
how has it been playing Mass Effect? Have you felt like you had to go down every rabbit hole and finish every quest? I'm curious.
It's actually been really liberating to go through that now because I've played all of those games multiple times, and I know exactly which side quests are fun or engaging, or for some crazy reason I just missed them the first 14 times I played the game. So I know the loyalty missions that are worth it. Like, this is a squad, for example, in Mass Effect 2, right? The loyalty missions give you a bonus for that character that you're doing the loyalty mission with, and they will have an additional ability. If there's a character that I never take in my squad anyway because I don't like that playstyle, I'm not going to do their loyalty mission because I don't really care. But then in this playthrough, I've thought, oh, you know what? I never did their loyalty mission. Let me go do it. And then I was either, plus or minus by that. Some of them are cool, some of them are not. The Mass Effect franchise is incredibly frustrating, but I can't help but have a fondness for it. And so there's there's an obvious kind of downside. I've played it before, I know what's happening, but the way that it's done, and honestly, some of the voice acting like catches you occasionally, like, hey, that's pretty good. And you think back to when the game came out, you're like, this was really good at the time. So kind of teleporting yourself back to that time helps you to kind of take it in. And of course, the first one, the improvements to the remastered version really are pretty good. Replaying Mass Effect 1, I think, is the one that's worth replaying, whereas 2 and 3 are basically the same as they've ever been in that remastered collection. It's pretty cool.
So just maybe a way to kind of wrap up this conversation is that I've been thinking this as we've been talking. Something I say to my students all the time is that it's okay to not like something. It's okay to like something, right? But being able to articulate your reasoning is super important, And
Yes.
for those of you out there that are younger and listening to this, it's okay to have opinions, right? But you need to be able to defend those opinions even if people disagree with you, right? And so
back it up, right?
Like if you don't like, Breath of the Wild, I, as wrong as I think Jake's reasoning for not liking Breath of the Wild is, like, he is able to very clearly say, I don't like it because of the survival mechanic, right? Which is not like a unique thing to Jake. There are people that don't like the survival mechanic and the weapon durability stuff in Breath of the Wild, right? If I'm gonna say I don't really like stuff like Fortnite, I mean, my reason is that it's too many people that are annoying that I know play it, right? And that's okay. But I think just saying, like, I just don't like something, that doesn't get us far. And like, I for a long time I was like, I wouldn't play PUBG, and that's like my favorite game to play right now.
I know, isn't that cool? I have a huge
I think
one
there's
on that one. Ahead,
I think there's value in kind of finding the exception to the rule. Like, you may not like a certain mechanic or whatever, but maybe there's a game that just, for whatever reason, you enjoyed. Yeah. So I don't know, like, don't necessarily write off an entire genre because you haven't liked it in the past, because, if people are really loving it, maybe you'll find something, and maybe that'll be your in to, like PUBG, was your in to the Battle Royale genre.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you so much, Clay, for being here. I think that's going to wrap it up. So glad you could join us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. This has been a lot of fun. You guys got to play Baldur's Gate. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your takes. I want to hear how you guys play that game. It should be real interesting.
I have no doubt in my mind, whether it's this evening or some other time, I will have to jump on the bandwagon, because it sounds like it's going to be up my alley in terms of gameplay. So, everybody, thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. Don't be afraid to leave a like and a comment, subscribe, and follow. Check us out on Instagram at 3Grasstouchers. We've got more gameplay clips coming your way. There's one that I was editing just the other day. And be sure to let us know what you think of the show. We always appreciate you leaving a review or a rating of any kind. Thank you so much for your support. And until next time, don't forget to get out there and touch some grass.